Hello and welcome to the Alice version 2.4 tutorial series. My name is Steve, and today we're going to be doing the introduction to Alice 2.4 video, which includes basically where to find Alice, what Alice is, how to download it, how to install it, and all that good stuff. Now, if you're not familiar with Alice, Alice is not necessarily a programming language, but it's a program that's offered for free by Carnegie Mellon University for beginning programmers. If you've never programmed before, this is a good place to start, because a lot of the programming concepts that are in more advanced programming language, like Java or Python, you can learn by using Java. Now, one of the reasons I decided to do this series right here is when I was first learning how to program years ago, I decided I wanted to try by using Alice. And it made a lot of sense, but one thing that I noticed when I did searches on YouTube was there weren't a lot of current videos for Alice. I mean, if you look on there now, there are some really good tutorials, but many of them are 4 or 5 years old, and Alice has changed a lot since then. There's a lot of new models and things to play with. In addition to that, they don't seem to follow a logical order of operations. This series is going to be designed for someone who's never programmed before, never touched computer programming, and we're going to go through all the basics, starting from just adding objects, manipulating objects, creating basic animations, and then moving on to more advanced things in Alice, such as creating games. I've had some students of mine in the past who have created some really cool games with Alice. Now, granted, they're not Skyrim and some of the super blockbuster titles, but I've seen first-person shooters done. I've seen a Slenderman game. I've seen racing games. There's been some really neat stuff that I've seen done, and you can do it in Alice. So we're going to get started on the Alice 2.4 tutorial with a simple where to find it and how to install. In order to start programming in Alice, you're first going to need to download the software. Now, on the screen here, I've just opened my web browser. I use Google Chrome, and I'm going to go to the Carnegie Mellon website, or the Alice hosting site, which is located at www.alice.org. That's going to pull up a screen that looks like this. And the new version of Alice was just released recently, within the last couple of weeks. So if you used Alice before, there's probably a new version out there for you to try, so make sure that you have Alice version 2.4.2 at the time of this recording. Now, in order to download that program, you'll just go to the Downloads tab. There is an Alice 3.1. This tutorial will not work with Alice 3.1. Alice 3.1 is a little bit more advanced and centered around the Java programming language, and maybe someday we'll get to a point where we have a tutorial on that. But for now, you're going to want to get Alice 2.4. It is available for Windows, Mac, and Linux, so choose your operating system and click on the link here at the top to start downloading the program. Now, it's about half a gigabyte, so it's a fairly sizable program, and that's because it comes with all the 3D models and sound files and a lot of the bells and whistles that will allow you to play with the program and create some neat scenes. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the video here, and I'll bring it back as soon as my download finishes. So my download has just finished, and I've opened up my downloads directory. In Google Chrome, you can do that by simply right-clicking on your file down at the bottom and selecting Show in Folder. Or you should, Internet Explorer and Firefox have their own ways of doing this. Once you get to your downloads directory, you see I've got the Alice 2.4 file here. Now, if you're unfamiliar with computers and installing, there is not a traditional install for Alice 2.4. A lot of the programs you download and install will have a fancy little install and progress bar, and it will put stuff on your desktop for you, and it will put stuff under your program files. Now, you're not going to have that luxury with Alice 2.4. The way you're going to install Alice 2.4 is by right-clicking on it and choosing Extract Files. Now, you could select extract to Alice 2.4, and that would create a directory for you. But you're in your downloads directory right now, and you don't want to have to go to your downloads directory every time you want to access Alice. For me personally, I like to have it either in a folder on my desktop or in a folder in my documents. The way you're going to do that is by selecting Extract Files. This will pull up the extraction path and options window. Now, I'll probably have a lot of things on my screen that you won't necessarily see on yours, but it should be real similar. If you want to have a folder on your desktop that contains Alice, you're going to find your username on this list, click the plus to expand it, and then look until you find Desktop. Once you've selected Desktop, hit OK, and the Alice 2.4 file folder will extract to your desktop. If you want to have this installed in your My Documents folder, it's the same process, except you're going to hit the little plus next to Libraries and then select Documents. So I'm going to go ahead and select the desktop, hit OK, and the extraction process will take probably 15 to 20 seconds on most computers. Once that's done, you'll have a folder on your desktop called Alice 2.4, and you'll be able to access your program that way. And sure enough, I can see that Alice 2.4 has been installed on my desktop. When I double-click on that file folder, it'll open my window, and I'll have 3 files here: Required, Alice, and Slow and Steady Alice. Now, I've never come across a reason to use Slow and Steady Alice. If you have an older computer or a computer that struggles running Alice traditionally, you can try Slow and Steady Alice, but I've never actually seen it work, or I've never seen a need for it. So you can go ahead and get started and double-click on your Alice icon. Once it's done loading, you should get a screen that looks like this, and you'll be in good shape. Now, this is really where this tutorial is going to stop. This is just to make sure that you could install the program. Now, until the next video shows up, you can play around with the tutorials by clicking on this tutorials tab. There's an Ice Skater tutorial. The problem that I ran into when I was first learning to program was the tutorials didn't make a lot of sense to me. Some of them either went a little bit faster than I was ready for, or didn't do an adequate job of explaining why what I saw on the screen was happening. So I was able to go through the tutorials years ago, but I didn't get a whole lot out of them. So what we're going to be doing in this series is a far more detailed look at how to make Alice run some programs that I think you'll be really proud of. So if you've got Alice downloaded and installed, you're in great shape. Now in lesson number 2, I believe we're going to be looking at how to add objects to the screen and how to move them around and position them in a scene so that you can make the beginnings of an animation. We'll go into animation and all that stuff in the future. So thank you very much. I hope to see many of you back. And as always, if you have any questions, you can leave them in the comments. And go ahead and subscribe if you like the channel. I look forward to seeing everyone back for lesson number 2 in the Alice tutorial series.